Amen. Well, my friends, it is almost the end of Epiphany, because Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. And that means that this Sunday, the last Sunday in the Epiphany, has us reading this great story of the Transfiguration, where Jesus's countenance, clothes, everything about him was transfigured to be dazzling. Radiance is a theme all the way through all of the lessons today. Whether or not you're radiant, whether or not you're dazzling, at the end of this sermon, you're all going to be dazzling. Now, this collect makes it really clear why it's important to have this lesson today, is because Jesus had this experience to be strengthened, or I prefer the word fortified, to go into the challenges of his Lent, which was being driven into the desert to fast and pray for 40 days and 40 nights. It's very important to get fortified for all your challenges. Now, I want everybody who has just finished up a challenge, anybody who's in the middle of a challenge, or anybody who thinks a challenge is on its way, please raise your hand. All right, yes, everybody here has a navel. That is wonderful. Challenge is all about what life is all about, but it sure is important to stay fortified. Fortification is such an important word to me that I have it as one or two of my passwords. Now, I'm here to tell you that the power that fortifies is alive in you right this second. It worked all night on you, and it is working on you right now. The issue is not whether or not you have this power fortifying you right now. The question is whether or not you are aware of it and you are accessing it. Now that has to do with your theology, how you see God. Now we have all these Moses stories where his radiance came from his having meetings with God, who was separate from Moses. And he would go in and meet with God, and his face would just be absolutely radiant, such that when he would come out and talk with the people, he'd have to put a veil over his face. Then he'd take it off when he'd go back in to have another meeting with God. Jesus' radiance is quite different. This is a radiance that doesn't come from having a meeting with God, but from having God within. And so the radiance is inside Jesus, and it's being emitted or secreted out through his skin and his clothing and his relationships, and it even summons Moses and Elijah to come to have a meeting on the mountaintop. That's the radiance. That's the glory. That's the transfiguration. That is the love, the God, the divinity, the light that is inside you and me right this second. Because according to John 1, in the beginning was the Word, or love, or the Christ, and it was God, and everything that was made through the Christ, the love, the radiance, the divinity. There is nothing that was made apart from it, and therefore that is the light that shines in every human being and every creature, and that light cannot be put out. It is always stronger than the darkness. My friends, that is what is inside you and me right this second. And what we need to do is to access it so that we can change the world to wake up to this interconnectivity, this oneness that we all have, because that kind of power and radiance is inside of us. Those who access it look out onto the world with radiance, with transfigured inner light. And that's what Jesus does. Now, This is real world stuff. And I'm going to now read you an account of a person who had this kind of epiphany, this kind of transfiguration, and it changed his life and changed his professional course. His name was Thomas Merton. He was a monk who died in 1968. He lived in a Kentucky monastery, and they would send him into town, into Louisville, from time to time to do errands. And one day he was on the sidewalk in the middle of the day, and at the corner of 4th and Walnut, now known as at the corner of Muhammad Ali and Walnut, he looked around and saw everybody as radiant. Let me read the words. This will be in the Bible that I'm going to write once. That is going to be the House of Love Bible. In Louisville, at the corner of the 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all those people, that they were mine and I theirs, and that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. Now let me open up a little parenthesis here. Many of you know that I am just in love with the fact that I can take the train from my apartment to work. And it takes me 4 minutes and 11 seconds. It's thrilling. I mean, it's stunning. And the great thing is, I don't have this hermetically sealed car to protect me from being encountered by the realities of urban life, including people who look different from me, have different skin color, who are dressed differently, and sometimes didn't take their meds like I did. And I may get involved in all sorts of encounters. Now, I have this passage from Thomas Merton. I've read it maybe 1,000 times. I have it in my heart. And so I sometimes see a brother and sister on the train, and I will think this: I'm called to love that person, and he is mine, and I am his. And we are not alien to one another, even though we are total strangers. Merton said it was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special monastic world. My friends, at this point, all that he had been taught about the specialness and separateness of monks and religious people from other people totally evaporated. The sense of liberation, he said, from an illusory difference. He later wrote, "We are one, but we imagine that we are not." It was an illusory difference, was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. I have the immense joy of being a person, a human being, a member of a species in which God became incarnate. And as if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me, no, now I realize that we all are one. And if only everybody could realize this, but it can't be explained to people. There's no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. And then he goes on to say, if we could get everybody to realize that they are walking around with the inner divine light, we would not get much done because we'd all be bowing to one another. But we sure wouldn't have wars, oppression, and injustice. Now, unfortunately, we don't know all that. And a lot of us in the church don't know it. My heart broke when the Methodists voted this past week not to have same-sex marriage and not to celebrate gay clergy. But I'm so thrilled that our brothers and sisters down the street here at St. Mark's, looks like they went out and bought the biggest rainbow flag you could possibly buy, put it on the church, and said, "We're going forward." I must say that I had a moment of kind of salivating and rubbing my hands and saying, a time for sheep stealing. Come on, Methodists. Y'all can come here. But watch your self-righteousness. Because the Archbishop of Canterbury and some of the people in charge of the Lambeth Conference that's coming up said that if you're a person who's married to a gay bishop, you can't come here. We all need to get right with where the radiance is. It is in absolutely everybody, no matter what color you are, no matter what gender you are, no matter what orientation you are, no matter what you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter whether or not you have religion. It's all there. Now, I have run into a little allergy here at St. Luke's about making sure that we don't get into politics here and get too divisive. And I am here to tell you, you don't have to worry about that. Because we're a big tent, and we are all one, and the way to solve the impasse in the culture wars and the political wars in the United States right now is to make sure that everybody understands that they are walking around with the inner divine light, and there is nobody without it, and everybody's welcome here. And I want the brand for St. Luke's Atlanta to be, ooh, did you hear that everybody feels welcome at that place? And it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, or who you voted for the last time, or what your theological position is, or whether you're right one or right two, or whether you're this or that. They don't have ins and outs at St. Luke's Atlanta. It's a big tent, and everybody feels welcome. And we will do that to the degree that we insist on everybody knowing that they are one and in the same community. So, my friends, Lent is on its way. Challenges are on their way. The one who is within you is greater than the one who is in the world. Lent is a time for you to get in touch with the great divine inner light that is in you and is in absolutely everyone, whether they're sitting in the pew here or sitting on the train with me, going to work. But we have a responsibility to prove to the world that we believe and show that we have been transfigured to embrace absolutely everyone, and that they are belonging to me, I belong to them, and they are no longer aliens or strangers. Amen.